As we all graduate and enter the workforce and start living real life, I think a realization hits all of us pretty quickly. Real life is just hard. And I mean, it seems like everybody has some sort of idea of why this is. Some experts will say it's the political climate or social isolation that's been happening, or it's the gender divide happening in America, or there's the people who even say life just isn't difficult for us and we're just being lazy. And I mean, some of those are valid takes and probably have some truth in them, but I think we can all agree life would be a lot easier if we could afford it. Affordability and the price of everything seems to be the main issue that everybody seems to be caring about right now in America. And us, as Gen Z, seems to be getting hit the hardest. If we look at our parents or grandparents and kind of ask them how their lives were going at our age, most of them would describe a life that's pretty different from ours. They seem to be way further ahead. It almost seems like a lot of the generations before us had it easier. So I wanted to look into this. Why is affording life so difficult for Gen Z today? What is Gen Z getting priced out of, and what can we even do about it if we're trying to get by today? First, I wanted to talk about college, which is a subject that is pretty relevant to myself and a lot of my friends and a lot of people my age right now. Today, I don't think it'd be easy to find a college, so a 4-year university that you can go to for less than 20-ish grand a year. I mean, I know a lot of smaller state schools you can get by paying $15,000, $18,000 a year, but that includes books and housing and everything included if you live on campus and whatnot. But still, tuition is a good 5 grand a semester at the bare minimum. Looking back at 1976, which was, I guess, 50 years ago now, I found that the average tuition, in America at least, was only $1,000 a semester. If we're talking about how long it takes to save up that amount of money, I'm just going to go off of minimum wage back then, which was, I think, federal minimum wage was $2.30 per hour. And one person working about 3 months, so an average summer break, if they worked full-time at their minimum wage job, they could save up their entire tuition. Now, if we're looking at today, if you're working a minimum wage job, it would take you over a year and a half working straight every day, so no days off, and only then would you be able to afford 1 semester of tuition. And that's definitely the reason why almost everybody I know has student loans. It would be almost impossible to pay for college without them, unless you come from a rich family who helps you pay for it. And what happens for a lot of us is at 18 years old, when we're definitely fully mature and know what to do with our money, and are aware of the consequences of taking on debt, the school and I guess the government just says, here, take out as many loans as you want. Here, 100 grand? There you go, take it. And then they went and passed a law that said student loan debt follows you for life, so you can't bankrupt out of it. And this limit for student loans doesn't just apply to the government. You can go to private banks or other financial institutions and take out even more loans from them. There's really no limit. And I'm not trying to point fingers at schools specifically, but with this combination of loans available to students, there's really no reason for schools to keep their tuition affordable. And so yeah, it sucks if you're a student today trying to pay for college. So what can we even do to avoid this trap in the first place? Well, first of all, if you're still young and considering college, I think it's a good, at least thought to have, do you even want to go to college or even need to? Because especially in high school, it's definitely really pressured on you to go to college because that's what all the successful people do, and you want to be a successful person, so of course you got to go to college to do that. And include in that pressure from our parents to go, because over the past 20 or 30 years, that's been the default path that everyone seems to follow. I think now a lot of people are starting to realize that you don't have to go to college to be successful and make money, and these tens of thousands of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt is just not even worth it. I also see the other side of the argument of wanting to go to college because, for sure, a lot of companies use a degree as a resume screen. If you don't have one, you're just not even going to get interviewed for a lot of good jobs. And certainly for certain degrees and majors like nursing or law or something like that, you should go to college to learn the information. So as someone in college with student loans, if I was going to do it over again, this is what I would do. I would try and take as many dual enrollment courses in high school as possible, which could be transferred over to future schools for a lot of the general education credits. If you can get your stupid science classes done for $200 instead of $2,000, it's basically a no-brainer. Next, in high school, I would spend a ton of time researching majors and the ROI after getting them. So this means picking a major that will get you a decent paying job after graduation and having a good promotion track afterward. I think we all kind of know what this means. So basically, picking majors like engineering and finance and just keeping your philosophy as a hobby. Then I would go to a technical college, or community college as some places call it, and take all of my general education classes, like the science classes and the writing classes, and even some of the general business classes that I might be needing later for a business degree. Most cities have one of these tech schools, so you can live at home while taking a lot of these classes, or even take them online for literally half the price of any four-year university. Of course, before this, I would make sure all of my credits would transfer, but then I would just transfer them all to a four-year university or college, and then finish my degree there in the remaining year and a half or 2 years. This process would save thousands of dollars, probably tens of thousands of dollars in tuition and student loans, and you could graduate almost debt-free. So that's how Gen Z got priced out of education and what we can do about it, but what about cars? A lot of us live in America, or even any other first world country like Canada, for example, and it seems like you almost need a car to live. Unless you're in a bigger, walkable city or have great public transportation, in almost every other place in America, you need a car to get to work to make the money. And I think if a lot of us looked at our personal finances, we'd see that our car is a huge proportion of what we spend every month. Between paying for it, having a payment, paying for gas, and then repairs that happen way more than we'd like, a lot of us spend hundreds, if not thousands every month just on our car. And it wasn't always this way. I mean, if you look back at 1976, while the median household income for a family was only about $30,000 or $40,000 a year, a new car only cost a few thousand at most. That took an average household, which back then was usually just one person, only working about 6 months to save up while paying for everything else in their life. If we compare that to today, where the average household income, or at least for a single income earner, is about $50,000, while the average new car is also about $50,000, it would take an average American worker about 19 months, almost 2 years to save up for a car. When again, we need cars to pretty much live, so the only way to get one quick is by financing it. Again, I'm going off of averages here. Most people put 15% down on this car payment and then do it for 72 months, so their car payment is only like $500 a month. And that seems affordable, which is probably the whole point, but still, after paying off the entire car over those 3 years, you end up paying in an extra $12,000 or $13,000 or $14,000 on top of what the original loan was, assuming around 5% interest today. And of course, the solution is just buy your cars in cash, which to most people making that $50,000 to $60,000 salary is just completely unobtainable. Affordable cars have gotten really replaced by affordable-ish payments. I tried looking, but I don't think any major car manufacturer in America even sells a new car for under like $20,000. And anything even close to that is either super bare bones or impossible to find. So again, what do we even do in this situation? Well, unfortunately, there's not much we can do. The only thing I can say is buy a used car. It doesn't have to be a shitbox either, unless that's all you can afford. But still, if you make an average salary, getting a $10,000 to $20,000 car is not going to be that bad. You can definitely find a reasonably priced car that's 2 to 5 years old for less than $30,000. And if I was going to try and finance a car, I would put as much down as I possibly could, 50, 60, 75% if I could, and keep that loan to an absolute minimum. The last big reason why I think life feels so difficult these days and feels so unaffordable is housing. We all need a place to live, and looking into the future, it's not looking good. Oddly enough, looking back, I saw that the average person living in the United States, or even Canada, spends a smaller portion of their income on their housing each month compared to the 80s or the 90s. And it doesn't seem like Gen Z has a problem finding a place to live, but more so finding a place to live that we own. Most of us aren't homeless, but a good portion, probably like 80% or even more, that are under the age of 30 still live with our parents or live with roommates, or rent a really small apartment for as long as possible. This issue of not being able to own a house is so big that it's affecting millennials, the generation older than us in their 30s and even 40s, just as much. And unfortunately, it seems like a common sentiment online that both of our generations share is that we're probably just never going to own a house, and the only way to get one is probably going to be to inherit one. Now, I had a hard time trying to come up with a silver lining here and what Gen Z can actually do to maybe afford a house. And I had a hard time thinking of things we could do and even looking up things that we could do. The first thing, and like college, just ask yourself, do you even need a house or even want one? Because it's true, owning a house is absolutely one of the most expensive things you'll probably ever own. And if you're someone trying to grow their wealth, especially in your 20s, owning a house can actually be horrible for that. If owning a house is one of your dreams, the best way I can think of going about doing it is making your money in a high cost of living area where your income is going to be higher and living frugally then to then move to a lower cost of living area to buy the house and settle down in. Aside from that, finding any way you can to make a lot more money, getting promotions, or even trying to buy a house with a partner who also makes good money, which I know the chances of that are probably pretty slim if we can't even get a good job. I can't really see Gen Z having any viable path to owning a house anytime soon. One other important thing we can do is vote in local elections and especially national elections too, because essentially policy affects housing affordability, second probably only to the supply and demand problem. And again, that'll take a long time to actually affect us, but the bottom line is we're going to need to get creative or lucky or both if we want to be able to afford a house anytime soon. So yeah, it's no secret that life today, especially for Gen Z, is very difficult. And a big portion of that is because we can't afford anything. Housing, college tuition, and cars are three of the big reasons. And as three big pillars of living today, it might be easy to give up on trying to ever hope to afford any of these things. But I think these issues really just kind of highlight how important personal finance and being able to manage your money is. At the end of the day, affordability comes down to how much financial leverage do you have, and the more of it, the better. What that means for us is we have to start taking our finances very seriously if we ever want to live the American dream and have any sort of success in life. And that's why I'm not giving up. And a big portion of this channel is me talking about my own personal finances and sharing what I've learned along the way. And I truly believe that we all have the ability to make it. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one. Adios, guys.